This is our next lesson on management. So, last couple of lessons there, we had looked at our skills and activities. Again, leading, motivating, communicating, planning, organizing, controlling. We went through a bit of detail on, how you'd apply this to different scenarios: home, school, local community, business, and government. And I went through the last day how the questions are not really set in stone, and basically they could ask you to apply these skills and activities to anything really. So this is just giving you a little bit of experience as to how you could tailor it towards something as vastly different as introducing a healthy lifestyle at home versus how a government would introduce it in some capacity. Uh, Finally, for the introduction to management, we're looking at a manager. So what are the characteristics of a manager? It's quite short. We've only got a couple of slides left to go. So just the 5 that we've listed here, and we'll go into detail more on the next slide: problem solving, flexibility, charisma, hardworking, and being showing initiative, being innovative. But that's actually innovative, isn't it? Never mind. Yeah, obviously, look, these are your general characteristics that you'd expect of somebody filling in a manager capacity. Problem solving, obviously, being the ability to deal with issues as they arise. Flexibility, as highlighted there in the bold, that's the words you're looking for when you're explaining. To be able to deal with unexpected situations, COVID-19 would be case in point. Being charismatic, to be able to inspire others, keep others on side. People aren't robots. Even if you're a manager, you'll often find that you'll get a job in the future, and if you have a good manager, they'll take a certain interest into your life. How you're getting on with your school, how you're getting on with college, in terms of what you get up to for the weekend, and just small things, because obviously being on a personal level with your employees and getting to know them helps to build up the relationship, and that obviously generally helps in terms of the the morale of the staff, and keeping people enjoying working, basically. Being charismatic would be important. Hardworking, well, obviously, if your manager is slacking off, it's not going to inspire you to do too much. And initiative. The managers do not wait for others to tell them what to do. Obviously, look, that's just going ahead and just not sitting back and waiting for somebody to tell you to do this or that. You're getting off your own 2 feet and you're doing something for yourself. If you don't have that as a manager, then your business is obviously not going to go too far. So, these are 5. There's plenty more that you could put in, but these are 5 that you could use. And I would say what we have there in bold would be enough for you to obviously, if you're able to think of, look, flexibility, unexpected situations, you would be able to write 4 or 5 lines on how a manager would be expected to be able to deal with different scenarios in a business. Things crop up last minute, plans don't go as planned, and a manager needs to adapt. Finally, difference between the enterprise and management, and we're focusing here on the entrepreneur and the manager, and what's the difference. So a common mistake in the Leaving Cert paper, every now and then they will ask for an example of an Irish entrepreneur, and although I think he started one business, small business, years and years and years ago, one of the most common answers is Michael O'Leary. Michael O'Leary is the manager, i.e. he's the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Ryanair. Tony Ryan is the entrepreneur, the original founder. So this is your entrepreneur, this is your manager. Tony Ryan passed away, but before he passed away, obviously he would have been still heavily involved in Ryanair, but a backseat role compared to the media role that Michael O'Leary would play. He chooses kind of to be the face of the company as the CEO, but he's not the entrepreneur of Ryanair. So what's the difference between the two roles? Well, the entrepreneur is the idea person behind the whole organization, whereas the manager is generally responsible for implementing ideas. So, Tony Ryan can have this idea about, look, we're already operating in the Irish market, we're operating in the British market. Let's try to push to, get towards the, Eastern Europe or the Middle East or something like that, That's his idea. Michael O'Leary is then responsible for going away and implementing that plan. Risk taking, well, I would say as a CEO, there's not that much risks, because you're being paid really anyway. If the business fails, then you lose your job. But apart from that, Michael O'Leary gets a few million quid every year anyway. The entrepreneur has everything to win and everything to lose, because if the business loses value, he loses money. And if the business has any uptake and gains a bit of value, then it's theirs for the taking. So obviously, explaining an entrepreneur, they take the personal and financial risk of setting up a business and, while spotting a gap in the market. Entrepreneur is the one really who has their money on the line. Running the business, generally it's not as much, depending on how big the company is, the entrepreneur might take a step back and focus on important tasks in terms of how you're going to finance the company, and probably dealing with the management side in terms of being able to work with managers, maybe recruiting. Not often though. Running the business, well, that's Michael O'Leary's job as the CEO of any company. It's your responsibility to be involved as much as possible with the day-to-day activities, and then you obviously report to the entrepreneur. It's basically just taking some of the workload away from the entrepreneur. Entrepreneur has full control over the business to make all decisions, because they're the one that has all their money on the line. If they decide to go with a different approach, the chief executive officer has got to put up with that. So managers generally have control over most people of the business, but they don't have control over the entrepreneur, and they must get their approval from the entrepreneur before they make certain decisions. So again, I think this is a good example, because most people who would I suppose have paid attention to any bit of media in the last 15-20 years would know who Michael O'Leary is, and maybe not as much would know who Tony Ryan is. This is the entrepreneur, this is the manager, and you can see here these are the duties that a manager would have to uptake, and these are the duties that an entrepreneur would have to uptake. And that's our last slide. Quite important here just to focus on being able to talk about this in an exam. If you were asked for 15 marks to be able to distinguish between an entrepreneur and a manager, this is the kind of stuff you write upon. It's not just saying that a manager is somebody who runs the business day to day, and an entrepreneur is somebody who sets up the business, spots the whole gap in the market and things like that. You kind of need to talk about it under different aspects of the business. So this is an important slide. I'm going to stress that it is quite important. So we've only covered a small bit there. This is an introductory chapter to management. So a lot of this stuff, especially this stuff here, leading, motivating, and communicating, these top three, we'll be looking at this again into the future. For now, I want you to take down the slides 13 and, do you know what? Take down slides 13. Obviously for 15, I'm not asking you to be sketch artists, but I just want you to take down this little box here before you take down slide 16. So as you take down slide 16, basically, just write down entrepreneur, Tony Ryan, manager, Michael O'Leary, and then you write Ryanair above that. Just as an example for yourself, just so you know, example of an entrepreneur and an example of a manager. Yeah, slides 13 and slide 16, and just maybe write in as well the little box from slide 15. I want you to take those into your notes copy, throw up a small bit of homework on Google Classroom, so submit that as well, and enjoy the weekend. Thanks for listening.